debate. It was a good debate. There wasn't a whole lot of back and forth between candidates, but there were a couple of moments. There was an argument over some statistics, which, Ronni, I'm going to lean on you because it's a topic you're more of an expertise on. And in general, I thought the candidates were generally very well prepared and made a good argument for either staying in office or to appealing to the voters that are perhaps undecided.
So I'm really excited to be able to host this event tonight because this is not something that we have had a chance to do before. So I hope everyone will bear with us as we delve into new territory. Pretty much everything that everybody's been doing for the past 6 or 7 months, I guess, is new territory, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a new world. So, and I've got a little over a page of notes here, where I just try to take some notes to talk about some of the stuff tonight. Let me know when we are propagated, and I will take us. I'll let TV know that we're ready.
And we are ready.
Okay, let me just check. I'm letting her know we are ready. Our guests tonight, we're going to start off with the 11th-term Congressman, John Larson, who's running for his 12th term for the 1st District State of Connecticut, and his Communications Director, Mary Yatrosis. Did I do that right, Mary? Oh, okay, terrific. All right, so we're going to bring them up in a minute. We're just waiting on TV. We are close, I'm being told by TV, so bear with us just a moment. Ronni, any initial reactions from the debate?
I actually thought it was really interesting and definitely some significant differentiation between the candidates. And I'd really love to hear a little bit more about what they have to say about some of the key issues that were discussed in this debate. And would also like to hear if there was anything that was part of their platform that they didn't get asked about that they'd like to elaborate on for the voters here.
And we're going to get into that. I'm being told by TV we're ready. So hopefully TV does hear us because she said she couldn't, but hopefully we can. So we're going to bring up our guests. First, of course, is the Congressman, John Larson. John, welcome to the show. Thank you for agreeing to come on with us.
Good to be here with you.
So how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very, very much.
Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you both.
So I'm gonna ingest, but you've done this once or twice before, haven't you?
A few times.
Well, it was in terms of preparation. There was no doubt that A, you were prepared, and B, you knew your facts. And there were some arguments over the facts between the other two candidates.Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit. But what's your initial takeaway? What are your thoughts about the debate tonight?
Well, these are very difficult times, I think, as the league started off with, and in the midst of a pandemic and doing this virtually. And let me tip my hat to the league and West Hartford Interactive as well, but also to the candidates. It takes a lot to get out there and run and put your name out there for an election. So to both Mary and Tom, I'm sincere when I say I commend them for being willing to get out there and run for public office and the league, so that we at least get a glimpse in a short period of time what some of the differences might be. And I really think, and I hope for in the future, as you said, John, having done this a few times, that it's one thing to be for or against something. It's another thing to actually have a plan that will fix it, or that is a solution. It's very easy to put something down. It's oftentimes very hard, and the work involved in bringing people together, and unfortunately in the format that we have, and with 3 candidates, time just simply doesn't allot for that to happen. That's why I think it's as important in a district, for example, to do the number of town halls that we do, and Congress on the corner, and teletown halls, et cetera, so you actually get an opportunity to listen to what people have to say and then act on it.
Therein lies the rub. So a couple of notes I made, Congressman. You talked a lot. First, I'd love to hear more about the Heroes Act that the House approved. It did not, I believe, make it through the Senate. And unfortunately, it seems to be a lot of that going on. And if we have time, we can talk a little bit about that. But tell us a little bit about Heroes. You did talk about how it would benefit Connecticut. How would it benefit the rest of the country? What are some of the things that are passionate, that you have a passion for?
Well, it would benefit the rest of the country. Let's take a step back. So we have an administration that's in denial about the urgency and the immediacy of the COVID-19 crisis. This is, and you can go to various sources, et cetera, to say, when did the administration know about it and when did they respond? Having said that, and noting their inadequate response, Congress did respond and come together in a way that you would expect Congress should. We did pass the CARES Act, and we did provide trillions of dollars, and it was done bipartisanly. House passed a bill, Senate passed a bill, met in conference, agreed, and it was signed into law by the president. Well, during that same time period, it's not as though we didn't hear and watch and see COVID-19 to continue to unravel the country, and depending upon what part of the country you were in and how you responded, the difficulty that people were experiencing. But it led Secretary Powell to come out and say, listen, what we need to do is to make sure that we go in here and invest big. Why? Because there were so many individuals who, through no fault of their own, especially small businesses, especially the retail business and the restaurants and the small entrepreneur, who got hit and had to get shut down, and people who are out of work through no fault of their own, but their governments taking on the responsibility of shutting down services so that we could deal with a health pandemic. That's why I started out this whole conversation, hopefully trying to bring that sense of urgency that was lacking from the very beginning, and the sense of frustration, because back in May, 6 months ago, we passed a $3.4 trillion HEROES Act, which, as I explained what it did for the state of Connecticut, it did the same for the entire country. And depending upon your need and population and where you came from, meaning a rural state like Montana versus the state of New York and the city of New York, was the amount of money that you were going to receive in that plan. But nonetheless, everybody agreed, anyone with any knowledge about the problem and what we needed to do felt that you had to go after and address this issue in May, because by September, we were going to be running out of money that was going back to feed people and their families, to help people with basic unemployment needs, and other groups that have been totally neglected, like retailers and like restaurants, and also bolstering up our frontliners and our first responders with the kind of PPE and PPP that they needed. And I hate to use all these anagrams or whatever monikers, but this was so essentially important that we get these out to the American people. And imagine the frustration on the citizens' part, seeing the House enact something and the Senate simply never take it up, even though they would say constantly, oh yeah, we're going to get there, it's going to be close. And so what has happened, and the American public unfortunately has become used to this. They don't quite understand it because they expect their members of Congress to be working together. They're not anticipating that one branch shut down altogether. Imagine not voting on over 400 bills passed by the House, and over 350 of them bipartisanly approved. And we're talking about universal background checks on guns, prescription drugs, relief for the LGBTQ community. These are important things that we need to do. Infrastructure money to put people back to work, all of which passed one body and are sitting over in the other. When I see people and they say to me, Congressman, why aren't you getting things done down there? And you say, well, we've pass this. They go, well, yeah, I know, but why isn't Congress getting anything done? It's very frustrating to them because they don't, and nor should they be sitting down at their kitchen table trying to figure out the process that goes on in Washington, D.C. What they're looking for is results.
Is it too late though, Congressman? What's the path forward now?
Well, there's only 2 negotiations that are going on. In fact, Mitch McConnell, the initial bid was that McConnell said the Senate was at 1.1 trillion in terms of relief. They didn't take a vote on it, but they're at 1.1, they said. The House was at 3.4. Typically, if there's a disagreement, the Senate votes their package, the House votes theirs, then you go to conference and you come up with an agreement. Well, the House voted its package in May. The Senate has never taken anything up. And then has said that, well, they think the House of Representatives is too bold and too rich. Well, you heard what Secretary Powell said and what we said during the debate, that in fact, we were going to need more money. And then the president reluctantly at the end of July came around and said, yes, we agree there should be more money and we're going to continue to negotiate. But what they did is not continue to negotiate. They continued to triangulate and try to play the executive branch and the Senate against the House. But who's the only body, the House of Representatives, that actually voted on a piece of legislation, put it on the floor, and then also has come back and said, okay, we'll go to $2.2 trillion for the sake of getting something done for the American people. We went to 2.2. Where did Mitch McConnell go?
Yeah, well, he went down.
500 billion. They went in the other direction. Exactly the opposite of what the appointed head of the Fed said that we needed to do.
Well, that's what's so remarkable. That's what's so remarkable to me is we've got a Congress that's, you know, majority Democrat, and we've got a president who is whatever he is, and it seems like the 2 parties are moving together, but the Senate's just sitting on the sideline. And with that in mind, Speaker Pelosi has put a 24-hour, she said 48 hours, but it was yesterday, so we're down to 24-hour deadline. She is meeting with Mnuchin. Do you have any updates on that? Any news on that front?
And she told us, you'll be hearing the same thing we heard from her today, is that she's continuing to negotiate. And let me give Secretary Mnuchin a nod here, because he has been at the table and negotiating, even though the president, and, you know, depending upon the daily tweet where he might be varies, but he was very much involved, and they were going to happen soon. And we needed to go big, like the Fed chief had said, to we're going too much, to we're out of it, to we're suspending it, to he's back in again. So, but Secretary Mnuchin has been consistent in what the speaker has said, and this is vitally important to Connecticut. One of the sticking points was state and local aid. In state and local aid, as people in Connecticut are now experiencing firsthand, first of all, under the Republican tax bill, and that's why this is in there, 11 states in this nation are double taxed. We know because in our state, we pay for public education. We pay to our hospitals. We pay in to an infrastructure system here. We shouldn't be double taxed for what we were normally able to write off because we had paid those taxes that go directly to benefit the educational system, the healthcare system, the infrastructure and highway system as well. So I think that's where the frustration lies. I think both Mnuchin and Pelosi are negotiating in good faith, but even if they were to come to an agreement, we've yet to hear from Mitch McConnell in the Senate. And I said that they've gone backwards. So color us skeptical, but clearly, at least if Pelosi and Mnuchin get a deal, then it's squarely on the president to decide whether or not he can bring along a Senate which seems to be pushing back against him and going in the other direction.
Distancing themselves. Yeah. Another big topic on the debate tonight, Congressman, was big pharma, pharmaceuticals, the cost of prescription
Right.
drugs, and the cost of health insurance. Talk a little bit about what your takeaway was from that part of the conversation.
Well, again, it's a number one concern of people. I think the third or fourth bill that we passed in Congress after the late Elijah Cummings was prescription drug relief for exactly what citizens are experiencing. They know that there's been price gouging and exorbitant rise in the cost of pharmaceuticals and not a corresponding rise in either Medicare or Social Security. So we need things like the ability to directly negotiate, but also making sure that we have a prescription drug plan out there that lowers the cost for not only seniors, but people across the board so that they have access to these drugs and nobody is denied a life-saving drug that they need, especially during a global and national pandemic that we're experiencing here. Now, part of the CARES Act and part of what we did make sure that people got the testing, and we didn't go into a lot of that today, but providing the kind of testing and the ongoing testing that it's going to be. And also logistically, once there is a vaccine, and I believe there will be, and God only knows, I wish there was a vaccine before election day, simply because this is about the American people, not about the election of the House or the Senate and the President of the United States. It's about the health and well-being of the American people. And one of the ways to get there and make sure that once we do, that we're able to make sure, you can't have 50 independent states operating independently in terms of logistically getting the vaccine out and to whom, and depending on whether you're in a rural, suburban, or urban area and where the population is. But the one body that's expert at all of that is the United States military and the Department of Defense on two fronts. Nationalizing programs so that they're producing the gloves, the masks, the gowns, everything that's needed for our frontline people, but also making sure that it's made here in America so that there's no supply chain lapse that would have our hospitals as they were in March and April of this year scrambling around. And now again, with the threat in Europe looking like it's going to work its way across the Atlantic and end up here, we've got to be prepared for that second wave and be prepared in a natural way. I know under a Biden administration that the military will be engaged, that the nationalization effort and the coordination of all 50 states will take place in a manner that will allow us to better combat this disease and pull together as a nation.
Ronni, I've got one more question, but I'm dominating here. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, other than that, so healthcare has always been a big issue for me. I've been known to have called it a racket, and I say that having worked in the insurance industry for over a decade. But I know that Obamacare is not perfect. I know that actually nothing, or in my opinion, nothing that we have now is perfect. What do you think is the way, if you could fix healthcare, what would it look like?
Yeah, I think what we need to do, and I think it's going to happen in steps. But you have this ongoing argument, and then the battling of various messages without a focus on, okay, how do we get from point A to point B? Well, point A was the adoption of Obamacare, so that you recognize that you wanted to make sure everybody had access and that nobody could be denied because of a pre-existing condition. And that people, remember this saying, if you like the insurance you have, you can keep it. That's a very important point, because as you probably know from being in the insurance industry, A lot of people who have insurance that's provided by their employer or who have paid into a system really do like the insurance that they have. But there's also a large group that has no insurance and had no access, or the small entrepreneur where the cost of getting that insurance was outlandish and so expensive because actuarially, depending upon the age and size of their group, those costs will vary. And so
Right, there's no
you ought
spread
to
of
be-
risk when you're not part of a large group.
Exactly. So you ought to be able to negotiate in large groups, number one. But number two, Joe Courtney, myself, and Brian Higgins put forward a bill and said, listen, let's look at this from a cost-effective standpoint. The Kaiser Family Foundation did a study that if people could buy in, starting at age 50, into Medicare with the assistance of an employer and the employee or not, but if they could buy in at that stage, it would be 40% less in terms of the cost of the gold plan of the Affordable Care Act. So in other words, it would be far cheaper for people to continue to both employ people in their 50s and older, again, assuming you go from 50 to age 64, 65, you become eligible for Medicare. And it would also make the Medicare population much younger. Taking that 50 to 64-year-old and adding that actuarially to the group of older people makes that a younger group. And the dynamic change would be what the cost of insurance would be for a 27 to 49-year-old, where that would dramatically drop. And so that we could use the best of both worlds. Where does that all lead us? Well, I believe both in fixing the Affordable Care Act, getting that back in order, putting in this added incentive, and then ultimately, we're going to move towards, just like we have with Medicare, the government carrying the base of insurance and the private sector doing the wraparound, or doing and providing extra benefits for people who want to add more, but everyone receiving the basic coverage, access, and preventive kind of medicine that is going to be so essential to the future.
Wonderful. Well, Congressman, thank you so much. It was a great debate, very interesting, very informative. We really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us tonight, and we wish you the best on November 3rd.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you so much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate you
Mary,
taking the
thank you
time.
for coming on.
Of course, thank you.
Take care, folks.
Bye now.
Bye. Okay, and we do have, I believe we have Tom in the waiting room. And they're trying to sort out some technical, so. Yeah. Bear with me, they're trying to get the camera activated, okay.
I'm staying here.
We can keep talking. So they're trying to get the system up. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Mary Fay. Mary is having some technical issues, so she's not going to be joining us tonight. But she, interesting listening to her because she, there we go. I can solve that problem. She really took a line on a lot of issues where some places where she aligned with more progressive, the more progressive group, and some places where she aligned with a more conservative group. So I thought she took an interesting approach. Number one, she talked about having full private sector insurance, no government subsidized insurance at all, which is a fairly conservative view. Okay. She did make a comment, which you caught, Ronnie. I missed it, honestly, but you texted it to me. Maybe we can explore this a little bit. She talked about insulin being cheaper than water.
Oh, no, she didn't talk about that. The president had talked about that.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. So,
okay,
sorry.
Mary, I'm sorry.
That
I
was in the
assume
debate last
you're that's not yours. Okay, good.
week.
Good. I am glad that didn't come from Mary because.
No.
So, okay. So, and then one.
I was just talking about drug prices in general.
Okay. And then there were a couple of there was at one point there was a debate and an argument with Tom over the inefficiency, I believe, of Medicare. Am I saying that right? And one was arguing it's a 5% loss, and Mary was arguing it's an 18% loss. Did you?
I think no, it was the cost of the administration of Social Security versus.
Oh, I'm sorry, Social Security.
So I think the question was, and excuse me, I need to sneeze. We're talking about healthcare. I know I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me for just a second.
So we're in good shape. And then we'll come back to that. But another thing that we talked about was that Joe Biden had been a senator for 47 years, when in fact, I think he had been a senator for 36 years and a vice president for 8 years. So just a little bit of a clarification on that. That's more technical than anything else. But anyway, Ronnie, back to what we're talking about on the Social Security efficiencies.
So I think that the question was regarding the cost of administering the plan and what that is. And I don't actually know the answer either. I'm not sure. Maybe that's a question that we can ask Tom. Mary actually just texted me and she said she can't get into the show.
Yeah, I'm having the same problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got the text from her too. She is trying to.
Okay.
I definitely want to make sure the viewers know she is attempting to, but having a technical issue. So we do have Tom in the waiting room. I'm going to take him live here. See if he's still talking to his wife. Let's see here. 3, 2, 1.
Not yet.
Tom, how are
Texted her
you?
back and said that you're trying to help her.
Tom, how are you?
Maybe there's some additional
I
instruction.
don't know if they can hear us. Tom, how are you?
I think I hear Mary.
Yeah, I think it's Diane Rachel, which I think is Tom's wife. Tom, can you hear us?
Oh,
Well, this seemed like a great idea when we planned it, Ronnie. So
well, we see.
we're gonna give it a couple more seconds here.
Right
In
here.
stream now.
Tom, you are live. Can you hear us? I can hear him. Tom, can you hear us? All right. Well, not much I can do here. I can't troubleshoot while we're live, unfortunately. So I'm going to give another couple of seconds here. Otherwise, we're just going to have to say goodbye. We'll make a few parting comments, talk about some of the things Tom said in the debate.
I'm not sure why.
Gotcha.
Well, my sister
camera's
was saying Mercury is in retrograde.
Is that what it is? Is Mercury in
And
fact in
it
retrograde? I
causes
can check on that.
communications and technical problems, which I don't know. My Wi-Fi was down this morning. I was afraid I
just
wouldn't be
told
able to
us
do this at all.
Diane Rochelle was Tom McCormick.
He is here. I'm going to take him off in the
I can't hear you.
event that he says a 4-hour word. They can frustrate. I don't want to put him in a bad light. So anyway, we'll give him a few more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things Tom brought up. It was interesting. He is. I'm going to take this call because it's Tom. We're going to try to sort you out. Tom, we can hear you, but you can't hear us. Yes. He should be able to hear us, so we want to make sure your speakers are on.
And the volume is turned up too.
Yeah, and he exited Zoom because Zoom will step on. That's the problem. You probably did not exit Zoom. Make sure you exit and close Zoom.
Should we try it again?
Yeah, let's hang. We'll hang. Ronnie, yeah, and then exit out and then try to come on again. We'll give it one more shot. Otherwise, we've got to close the show. Okay. Thank you. All right. Yeah, I didn't have his cell number, so that was one of the reasons why. Otherwise, I would have tried to quietly troubleshoot it in the background. So I'm going to kick him off and let him get back on. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what Tom had said. Now, Tom was interesting because so first of all, he, if I got it right, he basically wants full government healthcare for everybody, no individual option.
Well,
And
hopefully we can get him on there and have him talk a little bit more about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. He talked about how government on their borrowed money shouldn't be paying interest, and certainly I love that as somebody who likes to save and invest. But then, really interesting, I thought his most interesting point of the night, and I thought it was one of the most interesting points of the whole debate, was that Social Security should be somewhat privatized. Meaning investment wise, the government could still administrate it, and I think we have it worked out. Let's see here. Okay. All right, I'm going to bring him in. Let's see what happens. We still don't have a picture. Tom, can you hear us?
Can hear you, yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Tom, we don't have your video, but we've got audio, so we're going to go with that if that's all right.
Geez, we have a nice camera.
That's okay, as long as we can hear Tom. I don't hear Tom's voice.
Here, Tom, start to talk. Is there a way to, we haven't used this platform. Is there Logic Capture video setting? Here we go. Wait a second. There's a setting. It's a Logitech camera.
When it came up, you should have been able to click activate camera.
I took them out because the audience. There we go. Okay, we got them. All right.
And broadcast anymore.
You hearing me now?
Yeah, Tom, I hear you loud and clear. How are you?
Hi,
Okay.
Tom.
All right. So
Okay.
We're live.
Do we?
welcome to the roundtable. How are you?
Do you see Tom? I just see blue.
I see.
Well, I'm fine, thanks.
It's the Zoom conflict, but at this point we're just running real long, and I don't want to. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome to the broadcast. So, and the good news is, BeLive, we now have editing, in BeLive, so I can take out that 5 minutes of confusion. I just have to figure out how to do that. So, Tom, welcome to the broadcast. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Super.
Both of you doing
we-
well, I hope too.
We just had a nice chat with Congressman Larson. Heard a little bit more about his positions on some of the issues. Let's talk a little bit about. You made a couple of comments here that caught my ear, and I want to chat with you a little bit about it and dive into it. Number one, you talked about how interest. How do we? You talked about how the government, we shouldn't be paying interest on debt. I certainly agree. I mean, I'm all for saving money and eliminating deficit. What do you see as a path to accomplishing that?
Wealth taxes to start, income taxes, real progressive income taxes like we used to have back in the Eisenhower administration, I think I mentioned. The economists have looked at this pretty thoroughly, and the general opinion out there is that you could go to 75, 80% tax rate and not hurt economic growth. Because what's happening now in our economy, this great concentration of wealth is leading to monopoly power, which is hurting growth and it's hurting opportunity. So like one thing, if you have real inheritance taxes, say starting over 2 million or so, which allows for small businesses to be passed, certainly. You get that money and recycle it into education, increase opportunity, and by increasing opportunity and increasing the skills of the workforce, you create more wealth. We have to realize there's been a tremendous increase in wealth over the last 100 years. Economists vary a little bit, but at least 100% increase in wealth. And the future could be so bright we got to wear shades if we do it right, but we're not quite doing it right at the moment.
So are you saying 70
There was
to 80%
one exchange.
on everyone, or on just on the wealthiest?
Tax 75, 80%, that's on the top rate.
Yeah.
And we could leave the present rate for the middle class basically where it is. And I would collect some federal income tax lower down the scale. Also, I think everyone should pay something. You know, everyone's a citizen. Everyone benefits from having the Defense Department to some degree. It's a little overblown. Roads, Commerce Department for trade, and Treasury for monetary supply. So the government does lots of things. And I think everyone should pay at least something. So, we need changes towards the bottom and towards the top, but particularly at the top.
So
Pretty much just leave the middle alone.
There was one exchange with you and Mary where she, I believe it was about Social Security. Ronni pointed it out to me. She knows more about this than I do, but Social Security, where she talked about the waste being somewhere around 18%, and you seemed very firmly rooted in the fact that it's less than 5%. Can you speak to that a little bit? Educate our viewers a little bit about what the debate was and what the data is.
Well, she was saying that the insurance companies are efficient, but they're extremely bureaucratic. They add a tremendous burden upon the doctors, with the doctors got to call them up and get approval for things. All the doctors' office have to deal with all the different insurance companies and all their regulations and all their different codes. It's tremendously inefficient. Social Security Administration through Medicare and Medicare, of all the dollars that basically are going in to their trust fund or their budget, they redistribute that money back out to healthcare providers at administrative costs of under 5%. And my point was this: when I used to be on Connecticut's overhead was 18%. With all the healthcare dollars that went to Connecticut, 18% of those dollars for each 100 stayed in-house and never went out the door to provider. Social Security, less than 5% stay, so to speak, in-house, and the 95% plus goes out to providers.
Okay, that's what that 18%, that's what I was
Okay.
trying to understand, because there definitely was a disagreement. So Ronni, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that
Oh,
I think I had misunderstood the original point, and I'm glad to have clarification on that.
Now, there
Another thing-
were a couple issues.
Go ahead, Tom.
There were a couple issues we didn't get to. We didn't get to nuclear weapons, which hang over our heads, dangerously over our heads. I mentioned that the United States has refused to implement a comprehensive test ban treaty. Iran, North Korea, the bad guys, so to speak, they're willing to stop all nuclear tests. And what's going on now in this country is we're looking at a whole new generation at the cost of many tens of billions of dollars of strategic nuclear weapons, otherwise more like battlefield nuclear weapons, weapons that are designed to fight a nuclear war. And once you start a war, no one knows how to turn it off. So that's a very big concern. You don't make nuclear weapons easier to use like what's going on now. That's the strategy. And also we have to be extremely concerned about command and control, because Russian systems from the old Soviet Union days are deteriorating. Their computers are not quite up to ours, and it's extremely dangerous because it's something like there's only a matter of minutes for human interventions. Once those computers detect, they're ready to launch. It's launch on warning is what it's called. And there's very little time for human intervention. And there's been launch on warnings in the past, and just thank God, so to speak, they didn't get launched. And I would say this, I'm not a religious person by any means, but nuclear weapons are the greatest sacrilege there could ever be. To threaten God's creation with nuclear weapons, to plunge this planet into nuclear winter, to destroy civilization, perhaps destroy the whole race, is unconscionable and really unthinkable. Yet our government is building to do that. John Larson is building to do that. And I expect Mary Fay would too.
A very somber note to end on. That's it gives us all something to think about. I remember the early '80s. The Day After Tomorrow. I think that was the name of the movie where the nuclear holocaust happened, and I remember having sleepless nights. I was in my first year of college, I think. So anyway, well, Tom, we appreciate you coming on. Any parting shots before we say goodbye to you and Ronni and I start our sign off?
Not really. I just say this. I agreed with Larson a whole lot more than Fay. I heard nothing specific from Fay, really. I heard a lot of old Republican retread, just a little slightly said a little bit different. And the one thing I think is most important for today, right now, open source the COVID vaccination research to get it to us now and save lives.
And before I forget, your website, so people know where to find you.
TomForCongress.org, TomForCongress.org, and on Facebook, Tom McCormick for Congress. That's on Facebook, Tom McCormick for Congress.
All right, Tom. Thank you very, very much, and we wish you the best in the upcoming election, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you for being our
Okay,
guest,
Take
Tom.
care.
Okay.
All right.
Should we
All
give
right.
Mary
So
one more chance? Mary is still trying to get on.
okay, we'll give her a moment. So,
Okay, she's trying
all
another
right, so I
device.
think she's trying to create. I don't know. I'm not sure what she's trying to do, but yeah, I really do want to give all three candidates equal time here. I don't want to. Anyone thinking we do, but I do. I'm excited to ask my parting question. But if Mary's going to still come on, I don't want to ask this question of you yet until we're done with Mary.
Oh, is this going to be a surprise question?
Well, it's probably
like what's
logical.
my favorite restaurant or something?
That too. We'll do a restaurant show. So we'll do a restaurant show.
Oh, no,
So
so I totally hedge on that because I don't want to play favorites.
I got into that when they did my interview for what was it? Discover,
Oh,
not Discover.
The Experience We Had
Experience We Had.
podcast.
I
They asked me
felt
that
bad.
question too.
So I said I gave my favorite dish, but I definitely pulled my punches on favorite restaurant because we're lucky. We're in a restaurant mecca here.
We
So,
are, and it really depends on the day and on what I'm in the mood for and whether I want to eat outside or inside or a lot of food or a salad or
We do have, I read today's Business Buzz. I
Right.
saw the feature on Kimberly Boutique. So if you haven't seen it, we're not going to tell you. You got to go read the Business Buzz. But the
I was very excited about that Business Buzz today because
it was a good Business Buzz. I even got a mention. I was honored. So we even
Yeah,
plugged our show and at the top too. We didn't have to wait to read to the bottom to get.
that's
get our-
right.
so,
That's right.
but we got 2 restaurants I'm excited to try because I loved Prospect Cafe and I was really sad when they closed. And then I'm really excited for the Texas barbecue place. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be, I got to get there and try it because I love a good rib.
It's a Beachland Smoke.
Yeah. Beach and Smoke. Yeah.
So I've got to get back there
so-
because I tried a couple of things and I want to try them again. And we have some leftover barbecue sauce that we've been putting on some other food, but I'm still thinking about that brisket.
I didn't
It was
like,
really good.
they're closed now. So I think I can trash talk this restaurant because they're closed, but I went to the Cook and the Bear for their barbecue and I did not like it. It was a tough location, tough everything. And it's still empty, which is a shame. It's probably been what,
it's
2
gonna be the
years since
place
they've
to
closed?
be. Oh no, it's been a little over a year. It was the summer of
Okay.
2019, and it's going to be a
Okay.
brunch place called The Place to Be. They just opened a second location in Hartford, and it's like an mimosas and all sorts of cool egg dishes and chicken and waffles. My kids absolutely can't wait because they have bottomless mimosas, and it's very like Instagram friendly, kind of cool.
Okay.
They have a bathtub that you can take pictures in.
Bottomless mimosas.
Right.
Police Chief Riddick set up the drunk driving checkpoints at on Memorial
Well,
and
it's a
Isham.
stone's throw from the police station, so
Yes, you wouldn't have to go far. So, Ronnie, I feel bad. We're running out of time for Mary here.
yeah. So we're just.
It's always fun to
yammering,
chat.
but,
We're supposed to be doing political. So
Did you hear from her at all?
I heard that she said, yeah, she's definitely having a technical issue.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. It's nothing I've ever run into with any of our guests for this, so I'm not sure what's happening.
You just read my last text that said any luck. So
we have her. We
What?
have
Have?
Mary. This is exciting. Mary. Oh, do we have Mary? Hang on. All right, hang on. She was there. She was there, and now she's not. Mary, can you hear us? All right, you want to send her a text and see if she can unmute and turn her camera on. I saw her in the green room, and then when I brought her live, she disappeared. I'm gonna tell her I'm kicking her out and tell her to just try one more time. Make sure Zoom is out.
she's trying on a different device.
It worked. It worked. Just for a second, I saw her. I'm happy because I know Mary's had some challenging technical issues at some of the council meetings, and that's why I'm sympathetic because I want to get her on and have a chance to talk. I haven't gotten to speak to her. Even getting ready for this, I didn't have time to speak with her much. So it's always nice to catch up with our local elected officials.
So are you seeing her again?
Nope. I'll let you know when she's in.
Okay.
It worked, so I don't know what happened between her popping up in the green room and me
So
bringing
in the
her on.
meantime, do you want to talk about the weather a little bit, John?
Oh,
Our weather going to be pretty nice this week?
yeah, it's gonna be 70s, which is pretty. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
take
pretty
that
nice
late
for me.
October any day. So
Oh, me
yeah,
too.
the weather's gonna be nice. I think it's actually been remarkably nice since October 15th. Like, you can just turn that corner. It can be high 40s, low 50s every day, and we've just not done that. And we usually do it pretty consistently October 15th to 20th. But no, we've been kind of lucky. We've been really lucky since COVID hit in that aside from the August 4th storm, the hurricane, I forget what her name was or his name was, but aside from the August,
Isaias.
Yeah,
Isaias? Yeah, not Isaias, but Isaias.
we've been really lucky
Mhm.
with respect to severe weather. I know when I was in Martha's Vineyard, you told me there was some real flooding up in Bishop's Corners in early July. But aside from those two events, we've been really, really lucky. Because when you got COVID and disruptions to supply chain and fear of being out and mask regulations, and you got all these things piled on. You don't want a weather event to further disrupt things. So
You also want to be able to be outside as much as
yeah,
possible.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
weather's pretty much cooperated. Like
yeah.
like
It's
I
been
said in
good.
Business Buzz, it was a little chilly for me to be outside eating dinner
8
on
a.m.
Saturday
jogging.
night, but a lot of
Yeah.
people were.
Oh, eating. Okay, when you went out for
Eating.
dinner.
No, running, I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
good with that until it's like single digits.
Right.
And then I've even gone when it's been 0.
Oof, oof.
And I will have to say that now being used to wearing a mask, I might be able to run when it's even colder because I'll be able to keep my mouth covered like I never had been in the past because that took me a
Oh,
while to learn to do. And I see Mary.
we
Hi.
did it. Mary, how's Mary? Oh my gosh. I know you've had a couple of tech issues at some of the meetings. So
Sorry.
this is why I'm going to reprimand our counselor. This is why I send an email saying, let's do a tech run so we don't have this happen and it goes
I know.
smoothly.
I was a
Tom didn't do it
little
either.
bit
I'm going to
busy
yell at him
today.
later. So, Governor, Congressman Larson, he did the tech run. He was there. You just, nope, it does matter for what it's worth. But anyway, I'm really happy to get you on because you and I never get to catch up, and it's always nice to
No.
talk. And we can also pick your brain a little bit on what's going on locally too. But let's
Sure.
first talk about. All right, so let's talk about a few things here. And I want to apologize, Jen. I also want to make sure the audience hears this. I incorrectly attributed a quote to you, and I apologize. I misunderstood something Ronni said, where I said insulin was cheaper than water. So, Mary, you did not say those words. And I apologize that I, for a moment, attributed those words to you. So we'll make sure we get that out of the way. So talk to me. All right, let's start with a tough question. If Trump doesn't win, I assume you're supporting Trump as a GOP candidate. Is that a fair question?
Oh, everything's a fair question. You can ask anything you'd like.
Yep.
I think, gosh, 2 elections in a row where we don't have unflawed candidates. Vice President Biden certainly has his issues, and they're continuing to emerge every day. So yes, I will be supporting our president.
Okay. If Trump loses, could you, as a congresswoman for the first district of Connecticut, could you work with Joe Biden?
Absolutely. I work with the council. Ronni, you're in almost every meeting, and I really represent everybody in the town, and I don't care what party they're from. And if the proposal makes sense and it's proposed by the Democrats, I'll vote for it. I clearly work with the Democrats very, very closely. And if it doesn't, then I won't. But I'm not an obstructionist. I'll work with anybody who wants to move the country forward. And my record shows that. So, yes, I will work with any president that we have. I'll work with any Congress member that we have. I'll work with any senator that we have. That's what I'm trying to change in Washington. I think people are sick of the logjam that we have. And there's plenty of blame to go around, so I'm not going to play the blame game. But we need something different. We need a different, strategy going forward where people can work together, and we've got to compromise. We can't
I'd love
always
to.
insist on our way.
I don't want to step on a question that you might have, John, but
No,
but
go
you
ahead.
threw the whole health insurance issue at me before, and I'd love to throw that at Mary now.
And that's where I was going. So,
Because that is something that it kind of has driven me crazy for years. And before I became a journalist, I worked in the insurance industry for more than a decade. So and as I said earlier, I've been known to call the whole health insurance industry, and I don't mean just the private insurance, but I mean just the whole specter of healthcare and health insurance and everything else about it, a big racket, big pharma, everything else. And I'm not supposed to share my own opinion, but what would you really suggest as a way to make a difference, to make it better? We've got the litigiousness of society as a whole. We've got pharmaceutical companies. We've got the government. We've got private health insurance. We've got everybody wanting their little piece of the pie. But at the same time, you don't want to leave a giant, I mean, at least I wouldn't think anybody would want to leave a giant sector of the world, of the country, without insurance to pay for catastrophes in their lives.
Yeah.
What's the solution?
Yeah.
How
Well,
do we get from where we are to something more workable?
it's absolutely complex, and the devils are in the details. Every plan's different. I love the actuaries. They're part of the business, but they design these things and they make them very hard for consumers and other people to navigate through them. Sometimes your provider will take it, sometimes they won't. So it's very, very complex. I think we need to focus on driving the cost out. So I'd rather see the incentives for healthcare. First of all, let me just say healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Everybody deserves to have a good healthcare program that doesn't force them into bankruptcy. And not just catastrophic insurance, but everyday wellness insurance. So I think the incentives have to be there for us to keep ourselves well, whether that means nutritional programs to get better nutrition, or to lose weight, to control your chronic diseases like diabetes, a whole bunch of things that we can do. I think we are making strides with reducing the cost of pharmaceuticals. I think that's crazy that one country has a much lower price than the United States. I know they're constantly launching new drugs, and the R&D is expensive, but we shouldn't have people who can't, especially seniors, who can't afford to take their medicine, or have to ration it, or have to cut their pills in half, or what have you. So we got to drive the cost out. Competition usually does that, but in the pharmaceutical case, it hasn't. So I think we're kind of held hostage to the market, and when people need their pharmaceuticals, they need them. Their lives depend on them. So we gotta monitor them more closely. And every business is entitled to a profit, but it doesn't have to be triple digits. The solution, I think, is drive out the cost by concentrating on wellness and have people be incented to stay well. There's some programs offer wellness programs where they measure your BMI and they measure blood pressure and certain things and make sure that you're healthy, and you'll get a cheaper rate, as you should. It's a whole pooling mechanism with insurance. So you've got old unhealthy people in there, as well as young whippersnappers who run 5 miles every day, and that makes the cost, supposed to smooth out the cost to be a little bit more affordable. But the insurance and whatnot is one component, but then you've got utilization of the benefits. And you hear the stories about a pill, an aspirin in a hospital costing, I don't know, $150 or something. And when you see your bill, it's astronomical for an emergency room visit or what have you. So we've got to really get our arms around that, why it's so expensive. And I think that will drive down the cost of insurance. So we need good coverage for everybody. I'm hoping that competition will make the prices come down. And I think the uninsured have avenues either through Medicaid, which people who are indigent unfortunately do have access to, and then we've got Medicare for seniors, and maybe there's some redesign things that we could do to kind of make a compromise with those programs, get more people covered under each. I am not for universal health care. I just don't think that would be wise. It would be another government program that we'd have less control and less choice over. I do think choice is good, but those would be some solutions. It's complicated. It really is.
It is. It's such a tough topic, and
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges we're seeing, in Washington is it was repeal and replace, which I think sold well with let's say the Main Street voter, and now it's just become more of a focus on repeal. I think it was Congressman Larson who talked about the costs, and I can tell you 17,000, 18,000 a year in premiums, and then 10,000 in deductibles. So if I'm earning 100,000 a year, which takes me out of Obamacare qualification, 25% of my after-tax dollars are going toward my health care. That's unsustainable.
You're right. Absolutely right. Were you asking myself, or is Congressman
I
Larson on
did.
the phone?
It's just something we talked about with the other candidates.
Yeah.
And just in fairness, we want,
Yeah.
we need to bring it up here. It came up a little bit in the debate, and it's so you talked about, and I wrote the quote down, full private sector insurance. So no public option whatsoever. Is Obamacare, is affordable health care, my understanding, and I know people who've been on it, is you still select your insurance. It's just a subsidized private option. So I guess my question, Mary, is, in your eyes, what's wrong with ACA aside from high prices? And I understand pharmaceuticals have a lot to do with it, but in terms of the public versus private option, what's wrong with ACA?
Yeah. So I think the goal was good. I think they wanted to cover more people, Obamacare, reduce the medical costs, but a lot of things that were promised about you can keep your plan if you like your plan, that didn't happen because everybody converted to what you just described: high premiums, high deductibles, catastrophic insurance. It really doesn't cover the everyday doctor or well visits. And then there's the hidden tax that we're all paying to subsidize Obamacare. So people forget about that, but there was another tax that we all pay to contribute towards that. So I think the concept's great. I believe in covering pre-existing conditions. I don't think anybody should go bankrupt or give up their life savings because they have a emergency health issue. So there's some components that I think are workable. You just got to figure out how to do it. And then I think we want choice, whereby, Medicaid, for example, not every provider, so a doctor or a hospital, certain providers who provide the healthcare, they don't take that. And some don't take Medicare. So, some you couldn't always keep your doctor. So those are the kind of concerns that I have with Obamacare, but it doesn't mean throw out the, baby with the bathwater. I would like to actually repeal and replace, and come up with something better that satisfies everybody.
All right. Ronni, any more questions for Mary?
No, I could debate this all day, but
I know it's complicated. It really and truly is. But that's where we have to work together and compromise, because nobody has the magic, wand to say this is going to be the answer. I think between talking and compromising, we'll come up with a good solution for people, because people do deserve good health care.
Right. All righty. Well, Mary, thank you for persevering.
I was late to the party, huh, John?
It's a great app, but the trick is to do those tech runs.
No. I know. Today was.
I'm sure
I didn't have a second, but anyway, I agree with that.
Preparing all day long for the debate. I know it's very important, because there's a big election, and I don't know that you guys have another debate, so I know it's pretty important for you. So, Mary, thank you very, very much. I'm going to sign you out, and Ronni and I will then do the wrap up. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. It was great.
Thank
to
you,
see
Mary.
guys.
I'll see you at the next town council meeting
That
virtually.
would be fantastic, and hopefully you'll have me back again just as a citizen. Then we can talk about fun things.
Take care, Mary.
Bye, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry it took me a while. Okay, I think I just clicked the X.
And boom. So, all right. Well, we got it done. It was a little couple of hitches,
choppy,
but
but
technical glitches. But I think in the future, I might have to be a little tougher on our guests about these tech runs, because I try to be nice when they don't do them, and then we see what happens. So, all right. So I won't ask you to give second or third place, because I think that'd be unfair to the second and third place, whoever they might be. Who do you think won the debate?
Oh, I don't pick and choose, John.
No. Okay. All right.
No,
okay.
No.
Okay.
All right.
We're not gonna. Okay. We're gonna leave that one open. Okay. I felt. I kidded Congressman Larson when he came on. I said, "You've done this once or twice." I really felt he was incredibly strong, incredibly well prepared, and he's been down this road before. I thought the exchange between Mary and Tom was really interesting. They might have been conflating Social Security and healthcare, which is maybe why they didn't agree on the number. So maybe they were both right. But I thought that was an interesting exchange. So I thought the debate had some good highs, and I thought the candidates in general were very, very polite and congenial to one another. I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely.
No, we need to see more of that. Too much stepping on each other at the debates on bigger stages. So we'll see what happens this Thursday night. We will not be covering that one. So
We
all
will
right,
definitely not be covering that one.
yeah. So tomorrow we've got a special roundtable. Essie LeBreau, who is the town clerk for the town of West Hartford, we're going to be talking about voting. We stayed away from that issue tonight because they didn't talk about it at the debate. But tomorrow, that's all we're going to be talking about. Noontime show. It will be rerun and re-aired, so you'll be able to watch it. But tune in noon tomorrow. We're going to have Essie for about an hour. We're going to talk everything you want to know about absentee, mail-in, and in-person voting. That's it, Ronni.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you for Ronni Newton. I'm John Lyons, and we'll see you on the next WeHow.com roundtable tomorrow.